Yo, it's Trent. In this one, I wasn't sure what to expect. I had never done anything like this before. Just kind of popped up in my mind one day to go do this particular episode. It was a lot busier than I thought it was going to be, so that definitely played a part in my rushing of certain shots. But some of these were okay. A lot of these I did not love, but we'll get into them here shortly. I liked this one. Just the kind of like odd display of kid mannequins is interesting to me. The way that I frame this, that you get kind of peeks into the store as well. And I noticed that I got a couple people standing over there at the far left. That just, I don't know, it adds a little something to this photo. I don't know what exactly it's adding, but they're there. Just a quick comment on this one. Just that like only a legging store in this mall is interesting enough. I think maybe with time that will be more interesting. But something I'm also more mindful of on this day is just like including people. I figured, well, there is enough people roaming around the mall today that maybe I should try to include people in some of my shots as subjects. So I tried to do that in some of these. There isn't a ton of like manipulation or direction, like a manipulating meaning how I'm placing my subjects. They're just kind of in there in a lot of these. So something I'm working on. This is probably one of the ones that I liked the least on my day out. I think it's interesting enough that it's just kind of this random photo studio box that at least, in my area, you don't see these ever. Like, I don't know if people use these often anymore. So, I think that's what I had in mind when I took a picture of it, was just to kind of highlight the fact that, these things still exist, even in 2025. Yeah, it's good enough. Snagged this one on the fly, as I'm sure you may have noticed in the footage prior to the actual picture. But once again, I think this is a situation of feeling rushed. I can't necessarily stop and take a picture without being easily noticed, which normally I would do if there was enough people around, just because you kind of blend in with the crowd. But there was just a small amount of people in the mall on this day that, anything that I was doing, people were noticing. So I still liked the way this one turned out. Just kind of like a random massage booth with the guy hanging out on his phone. I don't know. I was happy enough with this as like a drive-by shot. That something else I need to work on too, I think. I'd say this photo is probably my favorite for the day. The really long charging cable is just kind of hanging off of the booth, and then the lady selling them with her really long hair. That element to the photo really added something that I try to look for. I know there's a lot of people that do street photography that do that phenomenally. They find these kind of two starkly different things in an image that also are exactly the same in some way. I think is really cool. I miss a lot of moments doing that, just out of fear of people noticing me taking photos, but this one luckily worked out in my favor. this is another thing that you don't see get used too often. I'm like never in this mall anyway. It's like unless it's like a highly specialized thing, I'm almost never there. Maybe once or twice a year, if that. And these little machines and arcade things, I think, is something that will die with time. I can't imagine you make a ton of money off of these. But, the contrast between the Jurassic Park ride and then these little cute, duck toys and a crane machine, I don't know. It stood out to me, and I thought this may also be something that, people look back on and go like, man, like that's not even a thing that exists now. So that's the main reason for snapping this. And, I also like that there's a guy kind of positioned in between that ride on the left and the ducks thing. Once again, a subject, no real need for him to be there, but he's there. Sorry, I feel like I have something to say for all of these in one way or another. These were definitely rushed. Once again, not a ton of people around. People notice I'm taking pictures, it's a thing. When I walked up to this area, I thought, it's now or never, just do it. So I snapped these really quickly, and of course, on both ones, he's looking right at me. He knew I was doing it. I had to pretend that I just didn't make eye contact, and I just pretended like, what I was doing was completely normal. But I do like the way these turned out, and I wanted to include them both simply because he's kind of peering at me at the left image, and then he's like, hey, I see you in the right image. And I think that like slight progression was cool enough to show. This one felt so random that I felt the immediate need to take a picture of it. I don't know why there was a canine officer with his dog in the mall at this time of day, but he was, and no one really seemed worried about it. I almost think that he knew this lady at the smoothie bar here on the left, but this one was good simply because of the flow of people throughout this. You notice the girl on the left that isn't too worried about the guy with the German Shepherd on her left, or in the center of the image. But then there's also the couple at the cookie stand, and that guy's either looking, he's definitely looking in my direction. So it's like he's aware of me. He's not really looking at the dog, and and then the lady at the cookie stand is looking in this general direction too. So it felt odd enough that it kind of fit that that lane of trying to include subjects in like unique ways. It's not phenomenal by any means, but once again, definitely interesting enough. After peering back and looking just to see if this dog was doing anything interesting, I realized that he was letting the dog greet this lady at this food stand. So I immediately turned back and ran over to see if maybe I can capture a couple unique images. Same thing as the other one. It's like this one is just kind of like a moment in time that isn't phenomenally interesting by any means. But, the fact that this lady is feeding this, canine German Shepherd, so it looks like a chip or some sort of piece of food, but then she's also recognizing me and saying hi, interesting enough.
Huh? Thanks, Mom.
At this point, I think there's a few images that I didn't include just because I thought, that they're not special or anything of the sort. And then I was on my way out at this moment here. I thought some of these ads are interesting because these always change. And I don't know why I didn't capture any of these people walking in front of it. I think it may have turned out really cool if I captured both of them there. But instead, out of just being anxious, people were watching me, I decided to just snap a picture of the ads themselves, which you'll see in a moment.